In this lesson, you'll learn how to use the feature Send to Compressor from Final Cut Pro. You'll use the features of Compressor, you'll understand its interface, and you'll learn how to modify the presets. You'll create droplets for frequently used jobs. There are some things that you need to be aware of when we're talking about compressor, and these are the facts about compression. Compression will always cause losses, so that when you compress something from a larger file and compress it into a smaller file, there will be certain parts of that original file that will be lost or missing. Consider that when you recompress a file, you will lose more data. The concept is to compress as few times as possible. The higher the source file means the higher potential quality of the compression. And to keep things simple for you, the main factor that you will look at when compressing files is the bit rate. This is the thing that makes the biggest difference in file size. Bit rate can also be known as data rate or bandwidth. Compressor can be used in different ways when you're working with Final Cut. You can either select the Share menu, but you can add destination, and then your compressor settings are here. You can drag those over, and these are the presets that will allow you to use compressor. So you could go to Apple devices and have best quality, etc. We'll see more of this when we get into compressor. You also have your custom settings here. As we go through, we will learn how to create these custom settings to be able to use these as part of compressor. None of these would be available if you did not own compressor. To be clear, once you've created presets within compressor, then you can use those directly within Final Cut. The other way to access compressor from Final Cut is to go to the File menu and select Send to Compressor. So first of all, we need to have our project selected, and then we can come to the File menu and Send to Compressor. And this opens up compressor with our current edit showing in the compressor window. Now, the compressor window is a less is more concept. In other words, all we're seeing now is one pane. There are a number of other panes within compressor that will give it more functionality, but as we see it at the moment, we've simply got the project that we have sent in here from Final Cut. And that can be played and viewed by selecting on clip here, and you can scrub through the clip with the playhead, or you can press the play button and it will play from there. So that will give you the ability to view the clip. Now let's have a look at what we want to do. Currently we have the clip in there, and if we press this button here on the left, we have the built-in settings that we can use to convert this footage from what was in Final Cut to any of these formats. So for instance, we could use the Apple devices preset, and if we drag that on top of the clip now, and the conversion for that preset could continue. Let's have a look at some of the options. You could create a DVD or a Blu-ray, or you could send to Vimeo, and so this is a Vimeo preset, and again we can add that to it. So now it will be converted to those two different formats. And then finally on the left hand side here, let's look at the custom. So you could create custom presets. So this one here for Vimeo, we could duplicate that. I've right clicked on it, and it now puts a copy of that one in there for us to make modifications to. We will have a look at that in a moment, but in the meantime, since we now have some presets on our original clip for the compression to take place, if we have this button turned on here, when you play it now, and on the left hand side will be the original footage from the edit from Final Cut. On the right hand side will be whatever it is being converted to, whichever format you have here. So if we check this one here, we'll see that that's a lot lower quality than this one here. Your presets can also be deleted by pressing that minus button there, and that will take that particular preset off. Or you could press the plus button here, and simply this choice that you're getting is the same as you have on the left hand side here. So we could now select one for YouTube and click on that and bring it in, and that will add that to your presets or for your different compressions that are about to take place. So we will bring in another one for the Apple iTunes, just drag it in, and now that they are in there and you want to go ahead, you can simply press the start batch. It's telling us that we've got duplicate names there. Let's just take that one out for the moment since they're both the same. And now when we start batch, you can see that there is a batch compression starting to take place. And if we look under the real edit here, you'll see that those two compressions are starting to take place. And you can stop them here as well if you want to. So let's just stop this now. You can import clips directly into Compressor. You don't have to use Final Cut to get them in there. If we wanted to add a file now, we can simply use this button here. Let's use this one. We can press the add button now, and that clip has now been added in, ready to be converted. So we will use the YouTube one again and select that. And now we're ready to do another batch if we wanted to. And now we'll go and have a look at how we can modify these presets to suit the needs that we want. So we can select on this button here, and while a preset is selected, then we can see the general settings, but more importantly, we can go to the video setting and we can see how we can change the conversion. Now this one currently is for 1920 by 1080. Let's change that to 1280 by 720. We will set the frame rate and fix it at 25, and we'll turn multipass on. We'll come back and look at that a little later and see how that can be adjusted. And it's set at automatic bitrate, so in other words it will set its bitrate, which is the major factor in compressing, so it will set the bitrate as it feels it wants to. We can overwrite that and set our bitrate to something lower. Let's set it at say 2000. We can type that in there. Let's set it at 2000. If we play through this now with the modifier on the right, we can see what difference there is between the compressed footage and the original footage. Each time you change the bitrate, because this is the major factor that makes the difference in the size of the outputted file, if we look at this, we can see that the file at 300 kilobits per second will give us an estimated file size of 4.24 megabytes, very small. If we change this down here to 2000, we can see now that the total file size will be 28 megabytes. If we put it onto automatic, we can see that that jumps up to 98 megabytes. Now this is a fairly short clip, it's only a few minutes long. Under the video selection, there are some options at the bottom for adding video effects. Now we can add a number of different effects. Let's have a look at the fade in and fade out. We can see what that will do for us. So we can select that for have a fade in for say 5 seconds, and we will set that opacity, and we set that here. When we go to the beginning now, the video will take 5 seconds, and you can see that on the right hand side here before it comes in. So remembering, left is the original, right is what we've adjusted. You can also change the audio settings, so we could increase or decrease the sample rate or improve the bit rate. Currently it's at 160. We probably don't need it much higher than that for the internet, so we could bring that down to 128, and so that will be a little less or a little lower in size, the file size. We can also add effects here, so the fade in and the fade out could affect the audio, so when you fade it in, you could change the audio fade into a number of seconds, say 20 seconds, or you could have a fade out of the audio. What we'll now do is to see how we can change some of these presets to more suit what we would like ourselves. So on the Vimeo one, if we look at that and come to the video here, we can see that it's set at automatic frame rate, and it would be better for us to be able to reduce that down. Now, while the preset is in the built-ins, you can't make adjustments to it. You can just see what those presets are. Once you bring that preset into the custom by duplicating it, and now we have a Vimeo clip. So let's title it. Now that we have this set here, you notice that these changes can be made. Now we need to keep it at 1280, and we need to keep it at 25 frames per second. That's quite good. So let's change the settings now. So the Vimeo bitrate settings are 10,000 or 10K. Let's change that to 2,000 or 2K. And so that's our low rate there. So if you have an iMac with an i5 or an i7 Intel processor, you can take advantage of the hardware compression that those Intel chips have. By turning multipass off, you then, if you have one of those iMacs, will now set it up for hardware compression, and you will have significantly faster times. Compressor has the ability to use multi-cores on your computer. It terms them multi-instances. What this effectively means is that there could be up to 5 versions of Compressor all running at the same time. Now, this is not a magic bullet, and sometimes more cores will be slower than only using 1 or 2 cores. So you will need to test this out. But this is how you go about setting up multi-instances if your computer will handle it. It will depend on how many cores your computer has and how much RAM your computer has. But if we go to the preferences now and select the advanced section, you see here that you can enable additional compressor instances. Now, if your computer will handle it, then this will not be grayed out, and you will have the option of a number of extra instances. If in fact you can't select anything here, it means your computer can't handle multi-instances. As I say, you need to test this out, because sometimes by selecting more instances, you in fact slow down the process. Compressor can be used for not just compressing footage, but also converting footage. So if you have MTS files from an AVCHD camera, you can use Compressor to convert those MTS files to ProRes files. And if we look in here under our presets, we will see there's a preset for ProRes, and there's the preset for 422. So if we go to one of our clips, here's the footage for the 18 footers. Right-clicking on the AVCHD brings in this stream, and in here we have the MTS files. If I drag one of those into Compressor, and we look on Compressor now, there is the MTS footage directly from the camera. If we drag now the ProRes on top of that, we can now convert it to ProRes to play better within Final Cut. If we go through the process of converting MTS to ProRes on a regular basis, you can use a feature called Droplet. So what we'll do with this ProRes file, we will simply save it as a droplet, and we'll put that droplet on our desktop. So now when we go to the desktop and we look on the desktop, we can see that we have a ProRes droplet there. If we now find a file that we want to convert using the ProRes settings, we can select a movie. Let's just select this one here and drag it on top of that droplet. And then looking down here, we can see that it's ready to be converted. Let's put it on the desktop and start the batch. And now we have that clip converted using the ProRes conversion. You can also use Compressor to add chapter markers should you have not done that within Final Cut. If we select on the golf club clip and bring it in at this point, we could call this title, and we can add a chapter marker by selecting on here and adding a marker, or you could simply press the M key and that enters the chapter marker in there. When you're on the marker, you can see that you can change the type of marker that it is, and you can give it a name. So we'll call this title, and then we'll move the playhead through here a little, and we'll come to the golf course building, and let's add another marker there, and we'll call that building. And so we're now moving up and creating chapters for the DVD. And when you proceed with this compression now, you'll find that the chapter markers will be entered. Start the batch, and as the batch starts, you can see that the active turns on, and it's now processing those two batches. And when that process is finished, you will see here in the completed section the compressions that have been done in the past, and these are the current ones ready for us to add a new file. Now we're back in Final Cut Pro. We can see our custom settings that we have just created from Motion by either going to the Share menu here or selecting the Share menu from the File menu and Add Destination. And now when we bring our compressor settings over and open up the customs, you will notice that it now says 5 settings, where before it said 3. And those are those new settings that we've entered in there, ready for you to use when you need them in future. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something useful here. Please subscribe, press the bell, and like this video. It'll help me make more for you in the future.